I was also pretty wild too. Like, I mean, when I look back, it's like I've always been very responsible, but
Mm.
like, no, the same kind of thing didn't happen to me that happened in Anna Nicole Smith. When I worked in the rave scene, I was out
Yeah.
all night and I was up all night and I was like, I was just doing a different kind of drugs, if I'm honest, like I
Mm,
wasn't
mm,
doing addictive drugs, but I was
mm,
using mind altering drugs, you
mm.
know.
Let me just say, what a thrill it is to drink you in with my own eyes as though I am
Thank you.
supping you, my lady, from a martini glass.
Thank you very much.
And I've noticed Dita Von Teese, welcome to No Filter.
Thank you.
I've noticed that in nearly all your interactions with people, they become very self-conscious about what they're wearing in
Hmm.
relation to how you present. Is that a really common thing?
Um, I think it is about the person. Like a
Yes.
certain kind of person will say something like, "Oh, I didn't know we were dressing up today." Like
Right,
and
yes.
those are like even like certain friends of mine that I'm like, "Oh, yeah, I mean, how long have we known each other?" And it's a very particular type of like person that would say that in general. I think people that do feel a little like, I guess maybe I feel uncomfortable because, I didn't put it for the effort. I mean, it's usually what I'm saying is it says more about them than me. And I don't think even I have plenty of friends who don't dress up at all, who never say things like that. So
Yes.
I think it's just it's about that person and it doesn't make you like a bad person that you didn't want to dress up, but like you definitely, I don't think it is like I can't remember every time turning to somebody saying like, "Oh God, I'm really overdressed. I should have," like
Right.
I just feel like very firm in what I picked, and I've been overdressed and underdressed for things, and very
Hang on.
underdressed if I'm
Hang
honest. But
on.
like for me, when I feel underdressed,
Yes,
like,
okay, give me an example, Dita Von Teese, of
well,
when you have been underdressed. I
I
know you've
mean,
been undressed.
I think the thing is like I might feel that I could have gone further, like, oh, I really could have gone further with this. I didn't realize I could have like taken it there. But I might feel like underdressed sometimes at like if there was like a fancy dress party that I was invited to and I didn't have the right clothes or something, or
Right.
like things like that, or I don't know. I'm trying to think of an example, but or like for instance, I was just trying on some dresses to wear, like a package of dresses that came from a designer I love, and I was like, I put on this beautiful like beaded dress and it's cocktail length, and I thought, oh, but you know what, like I think what I'm going to is like people will be wearing full length gowns, but this is like a beaded dress. It's just not
Right.
to the floor. So I thought, like, I mean, I can, by all accounts, I could wear this dress. It's like, it's amazing. It's all intricate beadwork and everything. But I had this thought, like, oh, I should really wear like a gown because I can at this. So maybe it's like that.
It's do you know what I find fascinating? I mean, there's a lot that's fascinating about you, but now in a world where people are very tribal and we have the
Hmm.
internet and people have access to any manner of accoutrements from their tribe. You can get
Hmm.
online if you decide that you're, rockabilly or you're death metal or
Hmm.
you can find all those things.
Yeah.
When you were a teenager
Hmm.
growing up in Michigan and then later on in California,
Yeah.
the world wasn't like that.
No, not at all. But it's real, isn't it great when you get to the point where you're watching all these shifts in the world? I mean, I think about that all the time about, I don't, I'm very, I try to be careful of being that person that's like, in my day, we had to use a map, you know,
Sure.
and trying to explain to people because it is funny. You think like, wow, I'm
Yes.
like, I'm to the point where I've experienced all this like technology and changing, but I do think like not having the internet to Google pictures or other people's performances, for instance, if I relate it to what I do, that fueled me in being creative on my own. Like I didn't have anyone to look at. Like when I was first making burlesque shows, I had a book that had still photos of burlesque stars, like portraits.
Right.
And I saw the movie Gypsy with Natalie Wood and maybe like one other 40s movie that had burlesque, like portrayed burlesque in it. But, I didn't have like a real example of other burlesque dancers, like real life ones, or what burlesque was really like in the 1930s and 40s. So I had to like imagine in my mind what I thought it should be. And in fact, actually, I got coached by a very like famous burlesque star, and she told me when I was like, "What do I do with these feather fans that I have?"
Right.
Because I only had portraits of Sally Rand, and she's tried to describe to me what Sally Rand did. And so it's really funny to like think like about how much access there is to like, get inspiration
Yes.
or copy, like it's so easy now, but like I really had to sit there and be like, okay, feather fans are like wings. Okay, I'm going to strike these poses and I'm going to cover, I really had to like work it out on my own. And so I think like that really helped get me where I am today and made me like original because I didn't have like
Yes.
one thing to copy,
But it's also
you know?
interesting because, when you're a teenager, the compulsion is, as a teenager, often you want to
Hmm.
travel with the herd. And so
Yes. Yeah.
teenage girls now, like I see with my daughter, the girls all wear, tracksuit pants and a crop puffer, and there's like a
Hmm.
uniform that they
Yeah.
have.
Yeah. Which I'm
What was
actually very
yes.
amused by when I see, because you start to notice it, but you see it more in younger people than older people. But you see like a group of maybe like 4 or 5 girls. And I always say this, I'll turn to somebody and say, look, same shoe, same hemline,
Mhm.
same shirt, like different color. And
Mm.
it's like really astonishing when you think about it. And so when I think back to when I was a teenager, I had like one best friend, and we both worked in a lingerie store.
Mm.
And so we had our thing, but it was very different than the other girls. Like we wore like a bustier with, our jeans,
Right.
or like a slip with a little cardigan sweater. But I didn't have like a group of girls that dressed like that. It was really me and her that cared about vintage. But it was, I think, because we were totally self-sufficient. Like our parents didn't give us any money. So like I had friends where I grew up in Orange County, California. Like I got driven to school every day in a 1960s Porsche by my
Oh.
friend. But
Oh,
those were not
really?
that's not how I grew up. So my other friend, we were both girls that worked and had to pay for our own food and school books and
Mm.
all of this stuff. And but we were hanging around a lot of like people that had a lot of money from their parents, and so they had all the designer jeans and shoes. So we were a little bit like outcast, like that, not outcast, but like we wore vintage things and styled our clothes very differently than our friends with money.
Right. And so at that time, how you must have even had a sense of how you were perceived by the broader your broader school community at the time. How did
Yeah.
you fit into
Um,
things?
well, I feel like there was so many different types of people. It's just where I went to school in particular, there was a lot of that, but I don't think I ever felt like I was still friends, I was still part of
Mm.
the friend group, and I don't really remember having like I know there were lots of other like cliques, like
Yes.
I was, I certainly had like was part of a clique, but I don't know. I'm not exactly sure. I feel like I noticed more of the division maybe in my early 20s or after I got out of high school.
Right.
And I think that would be because like I really started when I was 18 and first graduated, I had my high school sweetheart was like a water polo player, a lifeguard, all of these
Oh,
things. And so
wow.
they had this like surf culture. I grew up like in high school with him and as part of this like surf and swimming culture,
Right.
um, as opposed to like sports. But anyway, so then when we kind of came of age, like after high school, I got randomly taken to a rave party,
Mm.
and I met
Mm.
all these drag queens and club kids, and it really like everything changed. And it
Ah.
was very like, whoa, now I can, really dress how I want to dress, because I was kind of, I was always eccentric and like stylish and different because I always enjoyed that for myself and always loved like, pushing the envelope. But when I met this kind of whole different world of like eccentrics, I really flourished.
So when you would be prior to that, if you were like going to watch your water polo boyfriend play,
Hmm.
you'd
Yeah.
presumably be getting in the pool yourself at some point.
Yeah, it was kind of beach, like the beach world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And were
Yeah, I
you
mean,
bringing in that ye olde worldy 1950s sort of Betty Grable in the swimsuit look then?
no, I actually remember getting a ticket for indecent exposure for wearing a G-string bikini in
Oh,
the 80s.
oh,
Because
really?
I remember being me and my girlfriend, she tells the story, the same friend I was talking about, that I convinced her that we needed to get these thong back bathing suits. And I was like, it's going to be really great. Girl, all the girls are doing it, which
Right.
they weren't yet.
They weren't.
But I remember we got there and she like I just like walked out on the beach and took off my like shorts and everybody was like, "Whoa." And she was too scared and couldn't take off her shorts and get her butt out. But
Oh.
yeah, I got a ticket for indecent exposure, which I think is hilarious. I would kill to have that ticket today.
Oh,
Um,
yes. Framed.
yeah, framed. Yes. But anyway, I don't know. I mean, I was just always kind of like doing things a little different. I wasn't like an exhibitionist really. I just liked the idea of this thong back bikini that I was starting to see like, you know, poster girls wearing and whatnot. It's funny to look back on that.
And then because there was always then a kind of singularity to you.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think I always just really liked things that were different and rare. I grew up watching old movies with my mother, and my
Mm.
mother is a very like natural type of woman. But I remember my girlfriend, like certain friends of mine, there was two. I had a very eccentric aunt Opal, and she was, wore like the blue eyeshadow and the eyeliner and the nails and lots of jewelry and
Right.
smoked as a cigarette holder. And then I had a girlfriend whose mom had that big bouffant hairdo, like with the pin curls, and she was a showgirl when she was
Oh.
young, and I was so enamored with her. And so I was really enamored with the women that were kind of different from my mom, that were wearing like the red lipstick and the extreme makeup. I was really obsessed with that, and like how my mom was not like that, but I would see women that were like that. So I've always had wanted to be like that. So when I was old enough to start wearing makeup and stuff, that's where I picked up the red lipstick.
And then the red lipstick is in itself such a statement
Mm.
because it's terrifying to a lot of women, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's like I remember
Mhm.
when I'd had my first baby, for some reason, I decided, when you emerge from the miasma of, you know,
Mhm.
milk and everything,
Mhm.
I decided for the first time in my life to wear red lipstick.
Mhm.
And if you're not familiar with it, it's such a disaster. You make it look easy.
Well, it's like a disaster for me not wearing red lipstick, okay? It's like it's not about putting it on, it's just how I feel. Like I feel like, where'd my mouth go?
Mm.
Because it's been such a big part of my life now. And like certainly I'll some days just wear like a little bit of lip gloss if I don't plan on seeing anyone. But I really feel like weird, like my mouth is gone. It just disappears. And yeah, I don't know. But I get why it's hard for people, and I think the reason it's hard for some people is there is so many types of red, and you really have to like learn about what the correct red for your skin is and for your teeth, because this wrong kind of red can really make your
Yes.
teeth go a
Yeah.
weird color. And
Yeah.
so I think like some people just don't have the patience, but I do think that red can be really great on everyone. And maybe also some people don't want to emphasize their mouth and they want to emphasize another part of their face. And I get that too. Like people are like, I want to look like I have a tiny little mouth and I want to have huge eyes, or I want to have
Mm-hmm.
like, a big full lips with nothing else that emphasizes them. Like I understand that. It's just that, I just decided what it was for me. And for me, it was creating things that wasn't born with and wearing things that I felt like made me feel special or different.
At what point did you become Dita Von Teese
Well, yeah.
from Heather Sweet?
Well, first, I'm still Heather Sweet. I never changed my
Oh,
attitude,
are
personality, or
you?
my real name. I think I have a
Ah,
fabulous name.
yes.
But it was in first I went by just Dita, but in the early
Mm,
90s, like 1991, I started
mm,
working in a strip club.
mm,
And I used, like a lot of people do, you're having fun, you're using it, playing with the idea of an alter ego. You're trying to protect your real name so people don't find out where you live, because, it was easier to find out where people, or it has always been easy to find out where people
mm.
live with their real name. So I feel like I used a made up name. I used just Dita for that. And then a few years later, I was posing for these special editions of Playboy, and they told me I had to have a last name, which I argued over and told them, why couldn't I just be one name like
Mm,
Madonna or
mm,
Cher or whatever?
mm,
And
mm.
they said, no, you need a last name. So I looked in the phone book and found this name, Von Teese, and then it came out in the magazine and it was wrong. It said Von Teese, and I just
Misprint.
like I tried to correct them again because it was like, I don't know, I wasn't like thinking, oh, strip tease, Von Teese. I did not
No.
calculate that at all. It was the name Von Teese with an R in it. And so they kept spelling it wrong. And I remember sending a fax to try to get it right. And they're like, yeah, yeah. And then finally I didn't care and I just left it. And then I really didn't know, I was like 22 years old.
Mm,
I didn't know. I was so young, and I also felt that at that time I was just doing something fun. It was like, of course, like a lot of women, people always scare you when you're young and that like threaten you about turning 30. And I thought, oh, it's just like a thing I'm doing when I'm like young and like, when I can pose for pinups and everything. So I did not anticipate that it was going to be a lifelong career, that I was going to be trademarking the name Dita Von Teese. And, like it wasn't like a calculated thing. If it had been, I probably would have done it differently, but.
because everything seems evident in retrospect. Everything looks like a
Mhm.
career in retrospect. But at the
Yeah.
time, you're just making decisions based on what's fun and the opportunity that's
Yeah.
presented
Yeah.
to you.
It just
When
didn't seem like it was in the cards to be a famous burlesque star in, the early 90s. It
No,
hadn't been it hadn't been done, it
but
hadn't been
even
done.
no, it hadn't been done. And this
Mhm.
is the thing about when somebody's got a vision that I'm so curious about, that it just led you into places, and now the world has kind of played catch up with you
Mm.
because you're so at the top of your game and have been
Thank
for
you.
decades. And so much so you just collaborated with Taylor Swift on her Bejeweled
Mhm.
clip, which is a gorgeous behind the scenes of you. She does this. She does this. She's so unself-conscious and
Yeah,
yet conscious of what she has to learn, that the
yeah.
clip sort of opens with her sort of thumping towards the camera, like loping really, while you're teaching her the delicate art of immersing yourself in a martini glass. When you have moments like that, like how did that feel when you're approached to collaborate?
I mean, that particular time, because like there's been some things like that in the past, but I have to say it was very different because the way I was approached was with respect for what I do. And because, I can tell you, even since then, I have had several emails from Popstars peoples asking, hey, can we use your glass? Can we borrow that? We want to talk to you, and I definitely can see where I'm on the mood board. but
Right.
they just want to use it. They're just like, oh, like I'm gonna use that or copy it, whatever. And she approached me with something so much different. Like she was very knowledgeable about what I do. She understood what I did, and she wanted, she wanted to be side by side with me in that moment. And it was a collaboration, every bit of it, from the shoes, to the what we wore was all my of my world, and in
Mm.
collaboration with the people I work with. So that's just like an unusual thing, because people usually just watch you and imitate, and so I think it really says something about her as a performer and as a woman who is willing and happy to shine the spotlight on another woman. um because it could have gone all different ways. And I remember when I got the call, and I was just like listening to the pitch idea, and then suddenly Taylor got on the phone with me and
Right.
started, talking to me like a real person instead of
Mm.
a pitch for a video. And so I think it's just like it's different, and it really is, I think, a testament to one of the reasons I think that she's successful and why so many people like her. I think who she really is radiates, it radiates to other people. You don't hear her knocking people down unless there's a real good reason.
Mm. Mm. When you say that people approach you sometimes with disrespect, what
Yeah.
what what does that mean? Does it mean, is it because they don't understand your body of work, or do you think it's because of the sexual nature of the work?
No, I think it's because they don't want to credit somebody else for the
Ah,
idea. I
right.
think it's more like, oh, let's like just like, or they don't want to, they're afraid of having to pay someone. It happens all the time, but I think mostly it's very like, look at me, look what I'm doing, isn't it amazing? But they don't want to like I collaborate with people all the time, and I'm quick to say who designed my look,
Uh-huh.
who helped me with the choreography, who
Mm,
designed my glasses.
mm.
I think,
Who makes your silk pajamas?
yeah, yeah. I mean, I think like and certainly I have, I think, like had moments where I want to do that more, because I think it's a graceful thing to do to, say, oh no, it's not all me. Because I am a do it yourself girl. Like I
Mm.
always have been. I'm hands on. But it's like there are other people that I like working with that are generous with they're generous with me with what they teach me, and so
Well,
I like to mention that them.
and also artists are often drawn to each other.
Yeah.
And it doesn't necessarily even need to be in a common field, or it's just there's
Mhm.
something that they recognize. And that is what happened to you, I guess, when, so you, going back to that kind of Playboy era,
Mhm.
when you were discovered, or you entered the world of, or you were noticed by
Mhm.
Gaultier, the fashion
Mhm.
world, and there was a melding of that.
Mhm.
How did that come about?
I mean, I feel like it was really like a snowballing of events, because I look at like the 90s is when I was doing all this Playboy stuff, and like
Mm,
headlining strip clubs across the United States, or flying, doing fetish parties in London or LA or New York. And then in 2000 things shifted, and it there's a few things that like move the needle, really,
mm,
but the early 2000s I was performing part of this big show in Hollywood that had all these guest stars from um you know Charlize Theron and Christina Aguilera, Gwen Stefani, Brittany Murphy. Is like a huge who's who of guest stars. And I was in this show every week with these stars, and I got singled out as, the show is really great, and so is great, and so is great, but who is this girl in the glass? And that kind of like
ah,
turned a corner for me. And then it was the same time I was on the cover of um the Christmas issue of Playboy, which this is a time in Playboy history when everyone knew what was happening on the cover of Playboy. Like
Mm,
that was the
mm,
Pam Anderson, Anna
mm,
Nicole Smith,
mm,
like Drew
mm,
Barrymore, like
mm,
big stars were on the cover of Playboy. So I got a lot of attention for that because my
mm.
cover was so striking and different than what was
Yes.
usually on it. And then it was I got hired. I think Marc Jacobs did a lot for me because he was current at that time. He was at Louis Vuitton,
Right.
and he brought me over to perform at several. I performed at a whole string of events for Louis Vuitton, including the opening of their flagship store in Paris at the Grand Palais. It was
Mm.
like a huge thing. And then Jean-Paul Gaultier brought, was a fan. He actually had my Playboy cover. So it was kind of like all these things that happened in the early 2000s.
And did
So I
they,
was very lucky about all of that.
well, lucky maybe, but
Maybe. Well, it was just like a time. I also
yes,
came out with my first book, and that really made a big splash because it was a very unique book at its
yes,
time, for its time.
right, which was kind of glamour. It was glamour.
Yeah, the first one was called Burlesque and the Art of the
Mm,
Tease, and the flip side was Fetish and the Art of the Tease. And I really
mm,
spoke about like what it is about burlesque and glamour and even fetishism that I love so much. And so that book was a big, big, like 400-page book, and it was put out by HarperCollins, and it was a pretty, it was a big deal for a huge picture book
mm.
in full color to come out like that with that much, like with a huge publisher behind it.
When you because you were starting, when you go back to when you started in strip clubs, it
Hmm.
occurs to me that that is often a conversation that you've got to have with your family,
Yeah,
that your
yeah.
life is taking that turn. And so there were three sisters in the family,
Two sisters, yeah.
two sisters, three of
Mhm.
you in total.
Yes, yes.
Um, how was that conversation when
Mm.
you said to your sisters and your mum, or
Mhm.
who did you have the conversation with? I've got this job.
Yeah,
I'm
well,
gonna
you
be
know
playing in
what?
this club.
Here's the deal. And I was always kind of like a shy, quiet girl, but
Mm,
there's certain moments where I'm not, okay? So listen, I had started working when I was 12 years old,
mm,
okay? I'm
mm,
working from the second I'm allowed to, like first like cleaning toilets at a ballet studio, then I'm like working putting tags on things in a store, like. And by the time I was 18 years old, I had a real job. I had credit cards that I paid for myself. I was
mm.
completely self sufficient. So by the time anybody could say a word about what I had to do, I'd be like, oh, really? Like, I mean, to my parents, I did not care. I was like,
Right,
I'm a grown woman. And oh, did I miss the part where you said that you were going to send me to college? Yeah, I was
right.
pretty like
Okay.
I have to say I felt I knew, as you can probably hear from my voice, a little bit like
Mm,
a little like really like
mm,
nobody was going to tell me as an 18-year-old woman who was totally self-sufficient, did not take a dime from my parents past the age of 15.
mm.
So, I didn't really care what anybody said, you know.
And was there some resistance, or in the face of, like you
Yeah.
said, your
Well,
autonomy, they kind of
yeah.
took
I
it?
think I think it was kind of like I had to kind of like say like, well, I'm trying to do this thing because yeah, like they found out I was working in a strip club. I was posing for pinups and all
Mm,
this stuff. And uh on paper it looks a little weird, but I was kind of like thinking I'm trying to be like Gypsy Rose Lee and Betty Page, like my
mm,
idols.
mm,
And I saw it that way, and certainly the material looks that way.
mm.
So, I felt like, yeah, I'm trying to explain it. And, it was harder for me, obviously, than a lot of other people might find it today because, um, I didn't really have any living examples of what I was trying to do. I was
Yes.
sort of like, well, I want to be like this person, but yeah, I know everybody's been dead for a long time, but this is what I want to do. What I believe in is I want to be the next big burlesque star like Gypsy Rose Lee or Lily St. Cyr. And I was doing that. But, it's funny though, is the point where my dad like accepted it was when I was on the cover of Playboy, because guess what? He was
Yes.
what he was that's where I got the magazine. Like dads of that are like age like 60 and 70 and 80
Mm.
probably had a Playboy hidden in the house, you know. It's like it kind of legitimized me in a way to my father especially, which is a funny thing. But yeah, I mean, I don't have a religious family, and I know in saying all this, like I certainly could have had like a religious family, but
Mm.
I didn't, you know. So yeah, it's kind
But
of
you saw somehow as well, I mean, I understand, and that's a strange form of logic that your dad would have had, was that,
yeah,
look, if my daughter's a
yes.
stripper and look how successful she is, like she's the
Yeah.
best.
Yeah. I mean, he's like that now. It can be a little
Mm,
embarrassing where I'm like, "Oh,
mm,
I don't always feel totally comfortable when my family is watching, my show, but I have to separate Heather Sweet from
yes.
what my job is, and being at my very best for the 3,000 people in the room. I have to very much be like, it's not my problem, it's their problem if they have a problem. So, and I think I've thought that, I've learned that a lot along the way. I used to work in a lingerie store when I was a
Mm,
teenager, and I remember this very well. And my father, I used to wash my things. I had nice lingerie because I worked in a beautiful lingerie store,
sure.
and I was, 17,
That's a
18.
great job at that
And I
age
was,
as well, all
yeah,
the pretty
it's
things.
great.
Yeah.
But look at it this way. I remember used to like hang all my things to dry in my room,
Mm,
and my dad was furious. He kicked me out of the house for this
wow.
lingerie. And I remember being like, oh, I get it. This is his problem. This is how he perceives lingerie. It is for,
It's forbidden.
it's forbidden, and
Mm,
it's what he thinks of women who wear lingerie. So I was very like, okay, I get it. you know but and it is sometimes you have to think like that in terms of like, oh, this is other people's conditioning, and it is not, all that matters is like how I feel about it. I know who I am, but you kind of have to, we all experience that through life where people don't approve of what we're doing, and it's a
yes.
little bit like, yeah, it can be a bit of an eye roll.
But also, there's something when you mention at the time, like who the other sort of Playboy covers were,
Hmm.
there was a lot of bruised lives at that time, particularly if you say like Anna Nicole Smith or whatever. There was a certain degree of dysfunction, external or
Mm.
internal. Whereas you
Mm.
seem to have
Well, I mean,
a wholesomeness at your core, a stability at your core. Were you like that at the time?
I guess, but I was also pretty wild too. Like, I mean, when I look back, it's like I've always been very responsible, but
Mm,
like, no, the same kind of thing didn't happen to me that happened in Anna Nicole Smith,
mm, mm.
but I mean, I was going out partying. I worked in the rave scene, I worked
Yes.
in the rave scene. I was out
Yeah.
all night, and I was up all night, and I was like, I was just doing a different kind of drugs, if I'm honest, like I
Mm,
wasn't
mm,
doing addictive drugs, but I was
mm,
using mind altering drugs,
mm.
and I think like, I don't think it was like a bad path at all. It's part of like, hey, what, what are the ways you come up with all this creative stuff? you know? I
Yes.
think like, I don't know. I just don't like to say, oh, Anna Nicole Smith, you know, or I mentioned Pam Anderson as another person that was a big Playboy model at that time.
Yes.
I'm like, look at her. She's not like, she partied, she had fun, but like she's a super responsible, lovely woman,
Correct.
and did not come out of that like scathed,
But she
So
also had that really bruising episode with the release of the tape with Tommy Lee. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, but did she?
oh, okay.
I
Well,
mean,
I
let's look.
guess.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
mean, maybe it wasn't great, but I'm sure now looking back, she's like, like
it's true.
it
And
probably wasn't great. Like I listen, I'm friends with Pam. I'm
yeah,
friends with her. I don't think like I think she had a sense of humor about everything, and I think that she looks back and is like, yeah, it wasn't all great, but it isn't tragic. Like, if who show me one person that doesn't have some stuff that you're like, oh, that was not great, you know?
Mm, mm.
We all have that, and I think it would be like to make an example of that. It's I never saw the tape, but if
Oh,
I'm
I saw the
actually,
tape,
but
and do you know what? The tape was so spectacular. It was so spectacular that even in her most unguarded moments,
Mhm.
she was magnificent.
Yeah,
That
right.
was
That's what
the
I'm saying. Is
yeah,
like,
yeah, I
do
get
we
it.
really think she looks back and sees that as something horrible? I mean, it was not great, right? But by what happened, and of course, she should have been the one to make money off of it. But, um, and there was more than one tape, right?
Right. Yeah, right. But
Right.
the thing is someone's always making money off it.
Yes.
And as
Yes.
I guess we've learnt more recently with Kim Kardashian, it's like her
Right.
family decision was, well, it may as well be us.
Yeah, she had a sex tape. Paris
Yes.
Hilton had a sex tape.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think I keep all
Have you
my
got a
sex
sex
tapes under
tape?
lock. I might, but guess what? Nobody's gonna see it.
Well, everybody thinks nobody's going to see it.
Yeah,
You
I
know,
know. Well, yeah. I'll save it for my autobiography.
is there going to be one?
Yeah, but not until I feel very liberated and free to say everything I want to say. I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings, you know.
You know, when you speak about the past, and I'm actually well a significant lover from your past, which is Marilyn Manson. You always speak
Mhm.
so graciously about him.
Well,
That
not
in
always. If you would have talked to me 20
oh,
years
in the
ago, you would
breakup,
not have gotten a gracious version. And also it goes up and down. It's like very like periods like of that like of knowing him that I've been like I don't I've said things that are not very nice too.
right? When you met each other, because I saw you on a British show. I think it was Loose Women, and you said this
Hmm.
thing that was so amazing. I wrote it down. You said that, and I think they were talking about your look, and you said a strong look weeds out the weak. And then you said, and by weak, I mean men I don't want to hit on me.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah. I
Right.
mean, that's a funny lesson I learned when, I a few times on Halloween I dress up as like I wear like a blonde or a brown wig, and I wear beige makeup and take off the red nail polish and wear like normal
Oh, that's your
clothes.
Halloween.
Yeah, that's my Halloween, and I do notice it's a psychological experiment for me because I get treated very differently when I'm
Right.
dressed like that, and I noticed I get I'm going to use the word like preyed upon by men who normally
Ah,
would not approach me. So it's just a
right.
funny thing. It's like a funny experiment.
That you seem
So
more accessible, more available.
yeah, or less high maintenance. Like, because I've also heard from
Right.
men they're like afraid of me because they think I'm high maintenance, and I'm like, oh, okay.
But when you met Marilyn Manson, obviously he was not intimidated by the look.
I mean, I had lots of boyfriends who were not intimidated by the look, and lots of partners who were not intimidated by my look.
Because
I
when
mean, never do I really have like a relationship that was a significant one that somebody was not, um, you know, didn't like my look.
no, of course. I mean, that's an integral part of having a relationship with someone,
Yeah,
is that you
yeah.
have to did you like his look? Because I
I
found that
mean,
contacts and the la, it was a lot.
I don't like to just talk about that relationship because first of all, again, it was 25 years ago. But secondly, like it becomes like a part of my identity that I don't think is fair because it just becomes like a little bit dismissive of me as a person
Well, I
instead of
guess
like
I
one of many famous people, because you guys, I don't advertise the famous people that
right.
I've dated in the last 30 years,
Well,
but
you could always put Burley in the water by mentioning the other famous people as
yeah.
well and do
No,
the
I'm
art of
saving that for
distraction.
myself, my own clickbait, maybe even a book or something. But do you know what I mean? It just feels like I've been asked about this since I've been divorced for over 20 years now. And so people ask me about it, and
Do you know?
but yeah, it's 20 years. It's crazy to talk about it. Nobody
I,
wants to talk about their boyfriend from 25 years ago, do they?
yeah, I guess that's true. But
Yeah.
I think the reason that it still garners so much interest is that it brought you to the world in a different light. Like a lot of people came to know you through that era.
Well, again, like I've been doing what I do longer than that, but I just kind of keep my relationships as quiet as I can because it's really like I've felt how hard it can be because it is fun for people to talk about it, but then
Yes.
you have to remember I'm a real person with real feelings that does, and people forget that. They're like, it's not that easy always for me to talk about.
No, and you do present
And like
yourself.
he's married to somebody else and I'm with somebody else. It just is like a little bit like, oh, why does this have to be at this stage of my life, like this big thing that I'm forced to talk about?
Well, it's part of the journey, I guess, of you. But we don't have to talk
Right.
about it. I mean,
Right.
it's we've
Yeah.
we've established.
Yeah, I just want, since we're having a very open conversation, I just like to explain why it's a weird thing to talk about still. Because I
Yes.
think it's a little, I
Yes.
had a journalist say to me the other day, and she actually said, I want to apologize to you. And I said, well, for what? And she said, oh, I interviewed you 10 years ago and I kept asking you why you didn't have children and hammering you about this. And I was like, and she's
Oh.
like, I was really wrong to ask you about that. And I keep wondering when people are going to realize it's wrong to ask me about like the demise of a marriage.
Did
And,
you remember that conversation when the journalist
no, because
apologized?
it gets asked all the time. People have been asking me that for as long as for as long as I've been famous. Like so it's like one of the questions and you just think, "Oh, what a weird thing to ask someone." And now the question, instead of being about having children, now people are asking me, which is crazy too, about like perimenopause, and I'm like, oh, are you asking me about my now you're gonna ask me about the state of
Uh,
my reproductive organs and what they're doing. It's so crazy.
you
I'd like
know,
to talk about my work.
well, I think also because your work is, I don't know what the right word is. It's not sexual. I don't think it's sexual. It's
Mm-mm.
sexy, but it's not sexual. It's
I mean,
anyway.
it's a complicated, I guess, because it is like very female forward and I have a big queer audience and it's like it
Yes.
is very it's not like sexy under the male gaze. So I think like that's what for me and for what I know about my audience, there is interest in talking to me about beauty and exercise and health
Yes.
and stuff like that. And I wrote a beauty book. But yeah, it's just like a funny thing how like it's interesting to see what the questions like that you go, oh wow, I wasn't ready to talk about that today. I was just thinking about feathers and rhinestones.
I think particularly now, we were talking earlier about how there's a kind of a flattening of how particularly young women look. The
Hmm.
hoodies and the thing, and it's almost asexual in a way.
Mm.
And because you have presented these age old, um, these age old manifestations of what beauty and femininity and grace can look like in a very
Mm.
stylized way, I think
Hmm.
there's a real appetite from women. Forget the male gaze. I don't
Yeah.
actually, when I watch your work, it's not that men cannot appreciate you, as we
Right.
know.
Like it's not something I think about. And there's been times like in the recently where I've been like performing in a different atmosphere than usual and been like, oh wow, I didn't it's a total shift. Like
Yes.
like it happens so sometimes and I go, oh wow, I forgot how different this is
You
to have
mean
like a
when you
male.
say the shift, is it with a
Yeah.
male audience or?
Yeah, like maybe sometime in the last like few years, there's two occasions I was like, oh, and one of them was performing in like Hong Kong at a private members club, and it was definitely male, and I was
Oh,
like, oh
right.
wow, I
Ah,
forgot about this.
yes. That
And then
weird
another time
silence,
in
that weird
Ye-
silence that when the men
yeah,
are
like
like,
that it's just
yeah,
different. Oh, this is
yeah,
sexy. And so I remember being like, well, shift into sexy for men, like I remember how it feels, and it's kind of fun, right? Because it's just a different
Mm.
feeling than going on stage in a historic theater with like, 3,500 like
Yes.
fans, and then as opposed to, performing my glass act in front of like a men's club, a private
Mm.
high, like members club for men. I was like, oh, this is so different, but it's funny, it's just a funny shift where you can always feel the energy of an audience. And it just reminded me of when I was, much young in the 90s when I was doing that in strip clubs.
Mm.
um but yeah, it was like, it's an interesting mindset where you're like, oh, it's different, this is different. um
And then the women, because you're beloved of women, the energy from that feels like what in comparison?
um there's just a different like feeling. I think part of it is because I do have the knowledge of interacting with my fans verbally or the letters they send me, and I do have an understanding of where a lot of the like meaning for people comes from, whether it's watching me or just watching the show that I'm presenting, which tends to be, the best burlesque performers in the world that are different types of
Mm.
people than me.
Mm.
And I've always cast like, I don't, it's not like just a girly show. I've always tried to cast like the show with regard for people who I think are really interesting and different and unique.
Yes.
So I feel like you can feel that there is like something, there's a reason people are coming to a show like this. And it's not just to like watch, me do a striptease. I think
Yes.
it does have like the backstory of the books I've written or my lingerie brand or the things that I
Mm.
say that maybe resonate with other people, me giving permission for people to embrace their erotic side, their sensual side, to permission to wear cat eye eyeliner and red
Mm.
lipstick
Mm.
in a world where it's not altogether
Mm.
been always acceptable, where people sometimes you get made fun of for those things. So I think yeah, I think there's different things resonate for different people, so it's definitely, I think it's part of the key to my longevity is that it's more than just, a burlesque show.
Yes. And I think people also love that about you, is that women particularly get the message that there's a use by date, or that,
Hmm. Yeah.
after a certain date, we sort of
Hmm.
shrivel up like a piece of desiccated coconut, or, you know, and then to see you now in your like third decade of bringing this,
Hmm. Well,
it's
first of
quite
all, let me
inspirational.
say, dried coconut is tastier than regular coconut. We all know that. It's tastier, dehydrated with a little bit of sweetener on it. Anyway, no, I'm a big coconut fan. Um, no, yeah, I mean, I think like when I was first creating my shows and casting other performers around me, I definitely, I didn't really think about diversity and inclusion. I
Mm.
certainly didn't think about age
Mm.
diversity at that time, like,
Mm. Well, you don't have
two
to.
decades ago.
You don't
But
have to
now,
when you're young.
right, right, you
Mm.
don't think about it
Mm.
all when you're
Mm.
young until
Mm.
you're in it and you're like, oh, this is
Mm.
matters. And yeah, and I have definitely been guilty of conditioning when it comes to myself. Like, I said not that long ago, I said to my bosses in Las Vegas at the Venetian, I said, for my shows going on
Mm.
2 years there, and I said, oh, maybe this show could be like a standalone and we can hire other like, younger dancers to do my parts, and then it can just be a beautiful, like sexy standalone show. And they were like, no,
Yes.
people want to see you. And I was like,
Yeah.
they do?
Yeah.
So I'm kind of always like checking myself to make sure, like but it is an interesting thing, and I feel very lucky to be performing through this like different phases of life, and definitely lucky to see like, what it means for people to see. I'm 53, what it means for people. But when I look out into the audience and I see people of all ages and
Mm.
younger people who are just learning about burlesque, and
Mm.
my show is the there's not another show like mine anywhere else. So a lot of young people come to see it.
Mm.
And I think like, and then the people who are older or my age or, that have been watching me for 25 years. And so I just think like it does matter. Like I have to, when it comes to like diversity, I've had a choice and I have
Mm.
retired myself a couple times. And then one day I thought like, oh, what if you just keep like evolving your art and keep evolving and learning
Mm.
new like things and becoming better and making the show bigger and bigger and bigger. And that's kind of what my goal has been. Like a few years ago, I put in like a big ballroom dance number striptease after I did Dancing with the Stars. And I was like,
Oh,
let's do
yes.
this with the clothes cut flying off. And
Yeah.
or like with infusing the grand illusions into my show with putting magic into the show. It's
Mm.
learning magic tricks is very difficult.
Mm.
So I
Mm.
thought I'm going to challenge myself and I'm going to bring together new things and new elements into my show. Because I don't think it's just about like, looking a certain way. Like, I mean, I think
Mm-hmm.
I feel strong. I
Mm.
think I feel confident, on stage. I don't feel like, of course, if I don't feel like I want to be taking my clothes off on stage, I won't. But I
Yes.
keep thinking like, oh, wow, okay. Why was I so afraid of 40? Why
Right.
was I so afraid of 50?
Yes.
Now,
Yes.
like it just is, I get it. Like, I do not think I'm going to be like parading around on stage wearing with a 65-pound Swarovski crystallized costume when I'm, you know, 70, 80.
Good
I
for the
don't think
bones,
that's
though.
going to happen. But
Good for the
hey,
bones.
how would I know?
Mm.
I've always been wrong. We put this idea in young women's heads from when we are, you know, 17 years old. We get, you kind of like, they always say, oh, you're going to be 20. Oh, you're going to be 25. You're
Yeah.
halfway to 30. You're going to
Mm.
be 30. You're getting older. What are you going to do when you're 40? Oh, it's all going to be over. That's how we are trained to think. And I wish we could get rid of that. I wish we could stop teaching women, especially, that they're over the hill as soon as they turn 30 and getting us afraid of every decade. And so I feel like it's kind of my job to be up there going, here I am at 50, I'm wearing a G-string and
Mm.
pasties. Don't be
Mm.
afraid. Like,
Mm.
I don't think, it's just like a thing where you're taught to be afraid. And I would
And
like that not for
where do
the
you
way to be.
think that comes from? Because it's
Mhm.
not, we were talking about the male gaze before and actually
Yeah.
saying that doesn't necessarily align with the truth of what you do or who
Mhm.
appreciates you. I
I
don't
don't
think
know.
that fear of aging comes from men either necessarily. I think women also do it to each other.
Well, you know what? I was just thinking, yes, I think it's women, but also, please know, and I had this conversation this morning when I was looking through like a book of like, I get this beauty magazine and it had all these like plastic surgery before and afters. And there's a lot of men that have facelifts. And
Mm.
my partner said, oh, yeah, but it's like a lot of gay men. And I was like, okay, wait, let's talk about that for a second. It is a lot of gay men that are
Mm.
getting
Mm.
work done.
Mm.
What does that say about it being male driven?
Mm.
Because I don't hear about any lesbians.
No,
You don't hear about many
yes,
butch lesbians
yes.
getting facelifts.
Right. Yeah, that's
I mean,
interesting.
I'm just spitballing a funny
Yes,
thought that I
I
had
get it.
today. I have not like researched it before I talked about it, but do you know
Mm.
what I'm saying? It's like
Mm.
we don't really talk about like I have one of my best friends in the world is a butch lesbian, and it would
Mm.
never occur to her or any of her friends
Mm.
that they are going to get a facelift. However, I have a lot of gay male friends who are getting
Yes.
facelifts.
Yes, who feel
So
that same
what
pressure.
is this? Is it maybe could it maybe be men in general that are a little more youth obsessed than anybody else? I don't know. I don't know the answer, and I know it's a generalization always, but
So the conversation,
it's just
this
a
is what we're
thought.
going to take away from this is going to be the headline. Dita Von Teese says, be more lesbian.
Oh no. If only we could. No.
Yes.
We don't get to decide who we're with, right? Yeah. I
Hey,
mean,
you're coming to Australia next year,
yes, I
which is
am.
very thrilling.
I'm excited. It's been 7 years since I've been there with my show.
And you're playing big venues.
Yes. Yes.
What is the theme of this show? So you don't really talk in your shows?
No, I don't.
Mm,
And,
mm.
I get pressured sometimes too, but I always
Yes.
think like, oh, you know what though? It's kind of like in Vegas, in Las Vegas, I don't have a host at all. But on the
Yes.
tours, I have a host because it is like they are big crowds, and I like the host like holding things together.
Yes.
But I do think it's a little bit like going to a ballet performance or it's a dance performance. And I
Mm.
like the feeling and the idea of like telling a story without talking, I don't know. It's like I like it also because it is a unique perspective. And you can go to a show from a singer and they'll talk to you and tell you some stories and
Yes,
stuff. But
yes.
I
In
don't know.
fact,
I
you love
like
it when they tell the stories.
yes, totally. But I don't know. I feel like I like the idea of I have a tendency to pivot whenever I see what everybody else is doing. And I
Right.
just like a variety show, like a fun
Yes.
variety show. When the curtains close, they open again on a new story. Then that story's over. They open
Right.
again on another new story. Um, and yeah, so like the only times I've really talked in my show is like you'll hear my voiceover, like all the voiceovers are my voice, or there's songs that have my voice in them. But yeah, generally, I don't know. I guess I just like that it's a different perspective and a different thing. Like I don't see myself like putting on a microphone and talking, like
No.
I don't know.
People would love it. And
Well,
I
we'll
actually
see.
think
Maybe
I
that'll be
think
my
you would
next
love
phase of
it.
life. Maybe that'll be my next phase of life. I mean, maybe because even when I see like magicians I really like who do talk through the
Yes.
illusions, I actually, because I've been studying magic, the magic world, I really love actually the ones who come out and do it to music and they don't say anything. The
Right.
ones that have a
Whereas
beautiful music and it's all like it is dance and like thought like the what you can read the thoughts on their face. Like I love this. I like disappearing into this like fantasy that isn't like somebody talking and waking you up and telling you what they're going to do.
mm, what magic are you learning?
Well, I don't want to spoil the
Oh,
surprises.
okay. Are you
Because
getting sawed in half?
no.
Okay.
I'm kind of like, I can tell you this. When you mentioned like the magician sawing somebody in half,
Mm, mm,
I've taken these kind of old tropes like that
mm,
and I'm
mm.
flipping the script on them. So we've all seen the showgirl getting sawed in half. Well,
Right.
I'm going to saw somebody else in half maybe.
Oh.
I'm not going to. I'm just telling you like
Okay, good.
I put a lot of thought
Uh-huh.
into like how do I make this different like and I've even asked magician friends of mine like we've seen the male magician doing this to the showgirl, but have we seen a woman doing this to
Mm,
the show boy? And they're like,
mm.
no. So this is kind of my perspective of where I'm taking things is like just a little bit like different, a
Do you
little
know
bit.
what? I'm not surprised, Dita Von Teese, that you were taking things in a different direction.
Yeah, I just thought it would be fun to try it to try something new, and I love to make like a themed variety show, and I like the challenge of magic because it is like it's really complicated and hard, but really fun to work on it with these. I've befriended a lot of different magicians. I live near the Magic Castle, which
Oh,
is here in
yes.
Hollywood,
Yes.
and of
I
course I
went there one
know.
night. It's amazing. I saw
Isn't
an
it
old
great?
oh, it's
Yeah,
incredible. And
yeah, and
it's
so
so magical, the whole
it's so
that it is a
perfect.
castle.
Yeah, and I'm friends with many of those magicians, and I'm friends with magicians in Vegas. So it's like a fun little thing for me to talk to all of them about like what they think I should do and how I should do it, and some of the illusions are a lot more complicated and difficult than
And
some of the others. So,
is it protected knowledge? Like how do
um,
you learn from a magician because there is that, you
mhm.
know,
Yeah, I mean, I've been lucky enough that like I would two of the illusions I'm doing, I was taught by some master magicians who I saw actually perform at the Magic Castle, and I found out they were following me, and then I started
right.
working with them, and they taught
Uh,
me two of their illusions. And then, or you can kind of say like I don't want to spoil any surprises, but I said, I have this idea that I want to do this. And then they go, hmm. let me think about that and come back to you. And then they'll come back with like, it's like detective work. Like they go, here's the three different ways we could
Right.
maybe do it. And so that's kind of how it works. It's like you come up with fantastical ideas and then somebody says, like you could do it, but it's you need this, that, and the other. Some of it is like equipment. Some of it is just
All
practicing
right.
and like, it's smoke and mirrors. But yeah, like so I just kind of came up with a few different things that I wanted to do, and I've consulted with like 6 or 7 different magicians. Some people build these illusions and some people perform them, and some people are the ones that used to perform that maybe just coach people. So I've yeah, it's like a combo of like maybe probably like in general 4 magicians who are really coaching me on this.
I think this is your next incarnation.
It
This
could
is
be.
like,
I did say that. I said one day, I go, should I be a magician into my 60s? And they're like, you already are, but
yes.
why don't you feel
And
free.
also,
But
great costume. Dita Von
yeah.
Teese as magician, magnificent costume.
Yeah, I mean, I like, a lot of things are about how you present them, like, so I love that. I told,
Everything, nearly everything is about how you present it, really. I mean, it has to have
right.
a heart. But everything,
Mhm.
as Shakespeare said, is entrances and exits.
Oh yeah, I like that. Well,
Yeah.
this could be my next thing. But I do keep saying to people, don't worry, I'm not quitting my day job. This is a burlesque show with some punchlines of magic in it. So people are still going to see me do the best of what I do. It's just little moments that are extra
Yes. And
magical.
also, don't forget your day job is a night job.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it is really a day job because you can't see it, but I have a whole table full of to-do lists that are my day
Well,
job, which leads to the night job.
I'm sure. And even just if your day job was nothing more than your beautiful house, which I
Mm.
think our producer Bree was saying has been Architectural Digest's most popular video that they've made, is your
Oh,
place.
really? Yeah, one of them. I
Yeah.
don't know if it's still the most popular. It was for a
Spectacular.
while. Thank you.
And a true kind of fusion of your artistry um, and your sweet self. It's beautiful.
Thank you.
As
Thank you
you
so
have been,
much.
and I thank you for
Thank
sharing
you.
yourself with us on
Thank
No
you.
Filter. And we can't wait to see you in Australia. Will you bring your partner with you? Will Adam come with you?
Oh, no, he probably won't come. It's so far and he works and I don't know. I always think like, I mean, he's never been to Australia or New Zealand, and I know it is really exciting for people.
Mm.
But it's like a big long haul, as you know.
All the more reason to bring company.
I know, it's true. We'll see. We'll see. I'll check with
And
him.
when you do come, there's an Australian delicacy, well, it's a dessert called a lamington, which is
Hmm.
a beautiful sponge rolled in chocolate icing and then
Mm.
rolled in desiccated coconut. Dita
Oh,
Von
I love.
Teese.
We
You shall
love
feast on
desiccated
that.
coconut.
We love it. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.